Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in today's video, we are talking all about interior design, features, upgrades, whatever you want to call them, that you do not need because they're not necessary. And honestly, I'm in my villain era, and I'm just gonna say it. They don't even look that good. We can move on from them. The first thing we have to talk about is the backsplash to the ceiling. Now, I'm not mad at this visually. I do think it looks good in certain circumstances and in certain homes, but it's not necessary. The backsplash has the intention of keeping your walls from being damaged by the food that you're cooking in that space, right? So it doesn't have to go all the way to the ceiling. And I get that, like, maybe you're like, oh, what do I do there? I need to fill some of this space. It's got, like, you know, this big empty space there. You could paint it in a color. You could do a soffit. You could take your cabinetry to the ceiling. You don't have to spend the money on the tile all the way up because it's not inexpensive. And I mean, hey, if you're doing slab countertops all the way to your ceiling, like, I love that you have the budget in your kitchen for that, but the money could be better spent in another place, and it's something to consider. Now, for me, let's talk about the pricing of it, okay? Because even like a basic mosaic tile, like we're gonna do something nice, we're doing a marble backsplash, it's probably like $12 to $15 a square foot. So like you're taking it all the way up there, you're doing above your cabinetry, all on the wall, on the ceiling. That is so expensive. It's so much money. And it just feels like it's not necessary to me. It's just a lot of money to put into that when you could take that and put it into a really beautiful faucet and hardware in the space. You could upgrade the floor. You could put that money into having a slab backsplash instead of having it all the way to the ceiling. I'd rather see cabinetry that goes to the ceiling, better appliances or countertops. I'd rather you put that extra money into something that makes a little more sense. Even upgrading to have hidden outlets in your backsplash, that's a better use of the funds than, in my opinion, the tile to the ceiling. Now, of course, if you need any help designing your kitchen, getting those fine details figured out and corrected, straightened out, I am always at your service. You can book a one-on-one consultation with me using the link in the description box down below or going to intro.co/GarrettLeChic. Something else in your home that is pretty expensive and you don't have to spend the money on, I don't think it's worth it, is actually the antique vessel. Oh, I've talked about the vessel so many times and saying, like, you know, you're not a minimalist, you're a vessel collector. You don't have to have them. You can get some, you can DIY some, but like to get an antique vessel is very expensive, and to get a replica antique vessel is not inexpensive either. I'd rather see you get like a concrete planter and just call it a day. Spray paint it, or get that paint, put some sand in it, whatever, do a little DIY on it and paint it to be the color you want. I don't think you have to have a ton of vessels. I think as long as it's the right size, the right color, and it works within your design scheme, that works. It doesn't have to be antique. It doesn't have to be like imported from here and sourced from there. It's like, okay, I got it, but it's a planter, like a plant goes in it. Does it really need to be that level of expensive? I don't think so. And at the end of the day, if you get like a replica vessel or like an antique looking one, it's still fake. Okay, you don't know. And even the antique ones, like, who says they're actually antique? The person that's selling to you, the person that's pricing it, but like, how do you really know? Because it's just a stone planter. It's just like a dirty little jar on your counter or whatever. Does it matter? I don't think so. I think as long as you're getting the use you need, as long as it's fitting your decor and your scheme and everything, it's okay. You don't have to overthink it. Honestly, I'd rather see somebody get like a concrete or even like a fiberglass planter and then faux texture it, spray paint it, whatever, to make it look like stone, because like, why would I get a brand new production stone vessel made to look old when it's brand new, when I could just DIY something for a fourth of the cost? You know what I mean? And on top of it, if you're getting like a stone planter or vessel, do you know how heavy that is? It's like what? Like it's like a boulder. Like, what are you gonna move it around your house all of the time because it's super, super heavy? No, you don't need to be hiring movers to move a plant. The entire point is, I don't think you need to spend a ton of money getting a planter, a vessel, a vase that's antique and vintage or whatever. You know, like, you can get a reproduction, okay? Nobody knows, really nobody cares whether it's authentic, vintage, this or that or whatever. It's a planter. Okay, it's a planter, it's a vase, it's a vessel, it's a jar. Go get something and spray paint it, DIY it, whatever. Nobody knows the difference. It's just a dirty little jar sitting there that doesn't make a difference to anybody. So you don't need to spend a ton of money going for some like authentic vintage stone planter because nobody is gonna know the difference. And you all know me, or those of you that have been here a while know me. I'm gonna keep it 100% real with you. I'm gonna tell you the truth about interior design, what's happening. And if you don't know that because you're new here, this would be a particularly good time to hit that subscribe button, join us, become a part of the Le Chic family, and I would greatly appreciate it if you gave this video a like. You know what, I've gone off about antique vessels before, and something else I've mentioned before that we're gonna talk about again because I like to bring up is the accent wall. Accent walls can be so expensive. Whether it's painted, whether it's paneled, all of this stuff, it can be so expensive, and it doesn't always get you the biggest bang for your buck. It's not always the most necessary thing to do. And let me tell you what, like, yeah, you could go to the hardware store and get a gallon of paint and a paintbrush and go do an accent wall. But if you want something to turn out really good, you don't want to DIY it unless, you know, you really know what you're doing. I would hire painters, but I wouldn't hire painters to do an accent wall because you're going to pay a premium for it. Like, you know, the painters aren't just sitting there being like, okay, you know, you're having one wall done, it's gonna be X amount. No, it's a full day of work. They have to tape everything off, they have to prep, they have to do this and that. So it's going to be more expensive than it would be to just have the whole room painted one color. And if you're wallpapering that, wallpaper's not inexpensive. You can get like a cheap roll of wallpaper that's maybe like in the $60 to $100 range. If you want something that's a designer or more luxury product, it skyrockets, okay? You can spend tens of thousands of dollars on wallpaper for a room. And I don't think it's necessary, but you know, to do an accent wall is not inexpensive in wallpaper because you have to buy the paper, you have to buy the glue to glue the paper, and then you have to find somebody to do that work, and it's a long process. It's expensive. Same thing goes for paneling a wall. Cutting wood, getting it, doing this and that, nailing it all onto the wall. You don't know what's behind that wall. You don't know what you're gonna hit in there, pipes or whatever. That's just one area of why that's a mess. And the other part is it's not inexpensive, and if it's not done well, it doesn't look good. I don't love accent walls. I'd rather see you just do everything all at once. Or I'm really into like a secret like moment, a pop or interesting feature in a closet. I think that's a really good place to do an accent, do wallpaper, do a fun color that's just like a little pop or moment in the space. I think that's an interesting place to do it because it's kind of private, it's hidden, it's secret, it's something special that only you know about. That's interesting too, but I just don't think an accent wall is super, super necessary, and I'd rather see you focus those funds into something else in the room that has a bigger statement or a moment. Or you know what? It's as simple as get a big, large piece of art. That way if you move, you take it with you. You're not just leaving the accent wall behind. So be careful. But accent walls, take them or leave them. I don't personally like an accent wall all of the time. Like, I don't have any accent walls in my house because why would I? I don't need them. I would rather have a more cohesive look and feel through the furnishings, decor, accessories, window treatments, all of that, than I would just to say like, paint that wall blue and have a nice day. I'd rather see the entire room painted blue, encapsulate the space and give me what I need, which is everything, which is glamour, okay? Talking about accent walls reminds me of something that has been hugely popular and needs to be addressed because you don't necessarily need it and it's very expensive, and that is all about wall finishes. And here's the thing, I love a smooth wall. So that's the one that is like, that doesn't make the list. If you wanna have your wall smoothed out all day, every day, don't even ask me about it because I literally am going to be like, yes, do it. You already know the answer, okay? You already know. If you're building a house, if you're renovating your house and you're like, what do I do for the walls? Have them done in a smooth wall finish. Trust me, it's worth the money. But it's worth the money visually from a design perspective. But all of the other wall finishes might not be necessary to do because they are very expensive, and they also can go wrong very quickly if you don't have them professionally done. Things like lime wash, faux Venetian plaster, real Venetian plaster, those are like expert type things that have to be done appropriately. And you know, you could panel a wall to cover that wall texture and do all of this and that, but it could go wrong so quickly if you don't have a very high level of finish capability. You know, like I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I know when I need to do something really well done, and I know when I can kind of disguise if I DIY something that doesn't look great. So, you know, you have to be that person that has that really high quality of finish. Also, a lot of those things can you know, get a little tired quickly and you might be over them really soon, but there's no backtracking from that. Like, you're not gonna scrape it off of the wall and start from scratch because it's a permanent finish. So it is something that has to be done well because it's gonna be there, and it has to be something you really like long-term because you're kind of stuck with it. Now, you might be able to paint over it, but if you're spending the money on Venetian plaster, you're not painting over it. Like that is the single most expensive wall finish you can have. So it needs to be done right, and you need to really like it. So that's why you see it most of the time in very neutral colors, because people are like, well, I don't want to hate this in a year or two and get tired of it and want to repaint. There is nothing wrong with just painting your walls. If you have textured walls like many of us do, like, you know, I live in Las Vegas, like it's very, very rare to find a house that has smooth finish walls that's not a custom build. So, you know, a lot of people have it. Just paint it flat. Just paint it a flat paint, a flat color, and you're good to go. It disguises the texture a little bit. It gives it a really beautiful sheen without having like a glossy finish. I like that. And then do like a satin or something on your baseboard and your trim to have a little bit of pop and contrast, and you're good to go. You don't have to have some really expensive wall finish, because the reality is, people are expecting to see, I'm looking at my walls right now and it doesn't look bad at all that I have like a textured finish on them and a flat paint, because people are expecting to see that. Most people don't notice it unless you're living in a house that has like real plaster walls, and then you go somewhere and you're like, oh, wait a second, there's like a textured wall here. Like that's different. You know, that's the only time you really notice it. But if you're living in an area like this where everybody has it, it's not something that is like devastating to have. It's there. People have it, people see it, it's in everyone's house. It's okay. And the other thing I will say is, if you're doing flat paint, go for a higher quality flat paint. Those are the ones that are actually cleanable, wipeable. You can spray them and wipe the walls down. If you go for something really cheap, it's gonna feel like chalk and just be gross. It's something I don't like to see in homes. I never have liked it. I think it's expensive and completely unnecessary, and honestly doesn't even look good, is the faux marble slab fireplace. You know, the slab of marble was huge. Like, people love to have like marble everywhere because they think it says luxury, and sometimes it does, and I think that's really wonderful. Like, you know, you want to have marble floors, you want to have marble countertops. Oh, love that fantasy for you. But the marble fireplace is something you really have to be careful about. I think if you're doing like a slab of marble and it's backlit stone, that's really cool. You know, it looks really good, it looks really expensive because it is. But to replicate that, to do it in a faux manner, that's a little bit touch and go for me. I don't personally love it when I see like, oh, we got oversized marble tiles and we tiled the fireplace to make it look like a slab, because it doesn't look like a slab. It looks like tile. And don't even get me started on like, we want the marble slab fireplace look, so we're using porcelain tile. Porcelain tile does not look like marble, okay? Yes, you can get that look and feel from the veining and everything in it, but it is impossible to replicate the finish of marble. It's impossible. Literally, if you're at a tile store, go look at the marble, go look at the porcelain, put them side by side and compare them. You will be able to spot the difference right away. And I don't think you need to go for something that's fake. I don't think you need to be like, oh, we have to have the marble look, it has to be marble. Like, oh, we can't afford that though, get the porcelain. I don't think you have to do that. I think there's nothing wrong with getting like a nice, simple, flat colored stone, or not stone, but porcelain or whatever tile. You don't have to get that marble look. It's not necessary. But I do not like these fireplaces because, one, the whole like slab fireplace that's all tile, it doesn't look luxurious or expensive. It's not giving what you think it is. And on top of it, it is already starting to look dated. I personally always want to see something that is trend driven, that has a very strong classic reference. That's just my opinion on it, because I think that always keeps things looking timeless. And if I'm gonna do a really modern fireplace, I'm not gonna go for a linear fireplace. I'm gonna go for a square fireplace with a modern surround, because a square fireplace has that more traditional reference. And that modern surround I'm gonna go for is gonna have the same classic proportions as a more traditional fireplace, because I want that classic reference. And you can streamline it. You could do just a simple like waterfall style fireplace mantle, you know, that has like the mantle and goes all the way down to the sides. That's simple, that's clean, it's easy, and stick to those classic proportions for a more timeless feel. And timeless can be contemporary, it can be modern, and it can be traditional. It's all about it not feeling dated quickly. Is this 5 years old? Is it 10 years old? Is it 25 years old? Was it from the 80s? Was it from the 20s? We don't know. That's what I like to see. I want that timelessness. And this like tiled fireplace doesn't give me that. Now, if you're doing an accent tile and you're like, oh, we want to have something that's really fun, I think that could be cool too. Just keep in mind that sometimes if you're going for like a really bold color or pattern in the tile, you need to break it up with something. Don't just give me tile on the fireplace that's a really bold accent. Give me a mantle, give me some sort of detail or depth to it. That way it's a little bit more broken up. As your style changes and grows, you can elevate it alongside that. But something that is super, super trend driven is just not gonna be that thing, especially that oversized, not even real marble tile fireplace. Doesn't look good, doesn't look expensive or luxurious, looks like it needs to go, okay? Now that may need to go and you're gonna have to do something else. So let's talk about transforming your home, and there are some easy ways to do it a little bit more affordably and in a timeless kind of way. Why don't you check out some of the things I did right here in this video to learn how to transform your home and keep it classy, and I will see you over there.